Hello, and welcome to a very magical painting class, you guys. This is a super easy, super quick, and most of all, super duper fun painting class that is Disney inspired. And I say that because it is going to be a part of my Disney inspired course on Canvas Academy, which if you're joining me from Canvas Academy, hello, you know all the things, how much we love our Disney inspired classes. And if you're new or have never heard of Canvas Academy before, I will let you know more details about that later on in the video. But this is of course Disney inspired because we're going to be inspired by the great iconic Mickey Mouse ears. All right, it's gonna be great. And like I said, super easy, super fun. We're just gonna get in and hop right in and go. So to go over just a couple of the materials you're going to need for class today, you're going to need a pencil. I'm using a mechanical pencil because hey, it doesn't matter what type of pencil you use. Aside from that, like the video title suggests, you're also going to need some type of lids to trace. Essentially, I can even show you what we're going to be doing. You can probably already guess where this is going. This is to make your life really a lot easier. You can just trace. I am using candle lids for today. However, you can use basically any type of lid or circular item you can find laying around your house, your office, you know, your just whatever room you're in right now. I guarantee you'll be able to find probably two different types, two different sizes of these circular items. And I'm using candle jar lids, which they actually smell really good. Just the lid actually smells really good. It smells really good in here right now, so I'm happy about this class because it smells really great. And of course, some other things you could use instead of candle jar lids, you could use like canning lids, canning lid rings, the top of a lotion bottle, the top of, you know, like your, the top of your paint lid. Like this would be one size circle and then you could have another size circle. The rim of a cup, like these solo cups, you could also use the rim of a bowl, the rim of a glass, some like large shot glasses for the ears. The rim of a paint can, the lid of a paint can, a can of green beans, a can of peas, a can of spinach, yeah, but just something like that. Any type of that would work. Just two different circular objects in different sizes is really going to make your life easier today. And if you don't have these absolutely at all, you can freehand your circles. Not a big deal, right? Freehanding is fine as well, especially if you've been doing art for a while and you know, you can always just sketch your own circles for today. And then, of course, you're also going to need some paints, which we will get to in a second. You've got lots of options for your watercolor paints for today. But to get started, let's just hop right in, you guys, and go on ahead and trace. Like I said, you can already see where this is going. So let's just go on ahead, and I'm going to put down my first lid about the center and a little bit down on my page. I'm going to trace it with my pencil, just like this. Ta-da! Like I said, super duper easy if you got some to trace. If not, just freehand sketch a big circle here. Alright, you can pause the video and freehand sketch if you need to. But aside from that, let's keep it moving so we have our nice and quick and easy class today. You're going to go ahead and kind of line this up. You know the shape we're going for already. But we're going to line it up kind of on this plane here, like kind of between this circle and the upper right edge of the paper. We're going to line it up and just touching, they can overlap a little bit, that's fine, but just touching this edge to the edge of the circle you already made. And from there, of course, you go on ahead and outline that as well. And then do the same thing on the other side. So again, kind of lining it up between this big circle and the upper left corner of your page. Having this touch the circle you just made. And I'm telling you, these candle jar lids, these smell really good. Oh my goodness. Even though it's not the actual candle, these lids smell amazing. Okay. You can come back and kind of clean up your lines if you didn't get it all the way around. Just kind of freehand sketch or whatever. This is just an outline. You will have an option at the end once we're done with our watercolor splatter technique, which is super duper fun. I'm so excited. You should be excited too. Once we get that done, we can, there's an option to come back and outline all this if you'd like to, or if you just like to leave it in pencil, that's fine too. But we're done with the pencil for now. Now I'm gonna move this aside for just a second because I want to show you, you do have a couple of different options. If you have your own watercolor palette, and if you've joined this class because you're like, hey, I love watercolor and I've already got all the supplies, I'm good to go, you can use your own watercolor palette, whether it's the dry kind that you add water to directly in the palette, or if it's like the squeeze tube kind that you add water to as well. Any type of watercolor you've already got, you can go on ahead and use it for this class, whatever you want to do. If you don't have any of your own watercolor technically available to you, or if you just want to try out something new, I'm going to show you something that I like to do all the time, which is turn my regular acrylic tube paints into watercolor. Boom. Yes, it's definitely possible, and I'm going to show you. So this is something, again, we do this over on Canvas Academy like all the time, so if you've taken classes with me over there before, you know this technique very well. But if you're new to it, this is really, really fun. This is a way to create your own watercolor colors. Sometimes it's difficult to find the right pigment of color you want in a watercolor palette or in the tubes. And sometimes you just want to make up your own colors for fun, and it can be kind of tricky to do that with dry watercolors. So to do this, we're going to, I'm going to be using this like simple like painting palette that I got from the dollar store. You can use any type of painting palette, a clean painting palette that has, I know it doesn't look clean, but it's just old paint in it, that have like, you need something with a little bit of like a cup on the bottom of them, of each of the little circles. Sometimes the round palettes come like that too. But just something that'll hold a little bit of water to put your watercolor in. And if you don't have a palette like this at all, don't ever fret, you guys. I have other options for you. If you don't have something like this, use little shot glasses. They work perfectly for this. Especially like the little plastic ones, those are cute. Just little like shot glasses. You can even use like little tiny mixing bowls or mixing cups. Just anything that's like a little bowl or a little cup that's going to hold some water. Just grab a couple of them that you can mix different colors in. But I'm going to be doing this in this type of a palette today. And I'm going to bring over my fresh clean water I've got here in a cup. And I'm going to use a straw. This is an easy technique to do. We're going to fill up, at least I'm going to fill up each one of these circles with a little bit of water, pretty much almost to the top of the rim. If you're doing this in like shot glasses or bowls, you really don't need that much water in the bottom. Not any more than 1/4 of an inch high. But I'm going to use this straw kind of like a rubber dropper here. And hello, that came out quickly. But I'm going to hold the straw and get up the water, and then I'm going to put it in each of these little spots. If you have like an actual rubber dropper, that works great for this too. Or if you don't have any of the above, you can just pour your water just gently into each of these. I'm just trying to be fancy with the straw, honestly. Now, after that, comes the fun part where we can mix. So after that, take some sort of mixing tool. I've got this actual paint spatula here. And we're going to mix up, you can do as many colors as you want for today, it really doesn't matter. I have 6 spots here, so I'm going to try to aim to make 6 different colors. We'll see if I can come up with enough. So to turn acrylic paint into watercolor, you really just need like not even like a drop of acrylic paint. And all you do is you take that drop of acrylic and you just swirl it in to a little bit of water, and then boom, you've got watercolor. Because that's the nature of acrylic paint. That's what it was created to be. If I can get this open, hello. There we go. So the easiest way I find to do this is just to scoop like a drop, like either out of the cap here or like from the inside. Like I said, you really don't need that much. And the less you use, the lighter and more like pastel-like your watercolor is going to be. So I just kind of scraped it out there of the top of the cap. And then I'm just going to pick any random circle here and I'm just going to swirl it around until the water starts to change. Well, I'm going to try to swirl it all in there, but the water's going to start to change color. And again, create a nice pastel effect. If you want a darker color, add more acrylic paint to it. If you want a nice light pastel watercolor, just don't add as much. I'm going to go for a little bit of pastel colors today, I think. So that looks pretty good to me. Make sure you wipe off your mixing tool in between each color. Now, after that, I'll go ahead and do each of my other primary colors. Primary colors, if you know. Blue, red, and yellow. I'm just going to do each of those because they're straight out of the tube. Pretty nice and easy. You can see here, I got some out of that red tube there. And then again, just pick a spot and swirl it up in there. The red might look kind of pinkish because a pastel red is really just a pink. I'm going to scrape it on the edge there. Mix it all up. I'll do the same with yellow. Again, not very much on the end of your tool, your mixing tool. I should also say, if you don't have a spatula like this, you guys, you can use anything for this. You can even use like the other end of your paintbrush to swirl these up, that's fine. So I've got each of my 3 primary colors here. And I think after this, I'm going to make some of my secondary colors. So we've got a nice rainbow effect. So if you aren't familiar with color theory, which we have a full in-depth color theory class over on Canvas Academy for you to definitely check out. But with color theory, essentially our primary colors can each be mixed together to make secondary colors, and I'm just going to take you through this really quickly. So like blue and yellow mixed together will make green. Blue and red mixed together will make purple or violet. And red and yellow mixed together will make orange. So I'm just going to mix each of those really quickly in my little palette here of our homemade watercolors. I think I'll just start by mixing up some blue and yellow together here. So I'll do this first. I'm going to first get out, this is a different tube of blue, but I thought I'd change it up. We'll get some blue out. And we'll mix that up here to start. And it's just going to look like blue to start, honestly. See how it's a slightly different blue than what I did before. I just wanted to keep things different, change it up a bit. And then from there, we can get some more red. I know I got blue paint all over my hands now. Hello. We can take some more yellow and go on ahead and mix it up in there as well. And that was very blue to start with, so this is not going to be bright green, I don't think, but it's going to be more like a sea green, which is kind of pretty too. So again, you can play around with all these different, just mixing up different colors on your own, in your own palette, if you want to do this along with me, or if you've got your own watercolors ready to go, you can skip ahead to the next part. But just showing you different ways that you can go about doing things with watercolor. Now for my next one, I think I'm going to make purple. So I'm going to get some blue out of here. And I'm going to mix up blue again. But then I'm going to add, instead of adding yellow to it, I'm going to add some more red. So I'm going to add this red to it. It's going to be kind of dark, but it's going to be a nice shade of purple for us. Or violet if you prefer. Technically, that's what purple is called in the art world, but you know, you do you. And then what do I have left? I think I want to do red and yellow here to make a nice orange. So I'll start by putting in some red, and it is going to look a little bit pinkish, but that's okay. And I'll wipe it off and get some more yellow here. Mix that in as well. It's almost a peachy color. Very like orangish, pinkish. Kind of like that though. Sometimes the colors, you guys, it's not an exact science to try to get the colors you want. Sometimes you gotta play around with different things, try it again, you know. But also sometimes you get something that you kind of like and you're like, even though that's not bright orange, I still kind of like that shade of orange. So just some experimentation there for you to play around with really quickly before we actually start doing our fun little paint splatter technique, which I am so super duper excited for. However, I'm going to warn you in advance, this technique can get very messy very quickly and the paint will splatter like everywhere. So if you don't have, I've got my own painting table here, so I don't really mind if paint splatters everywhere. I mean, obviously, but if you don't want paint to splatter all over your work surface or something, make sure you put down like a bunch of newspapers or a tablecloth, some towels, just something to protect your workspace while you do this technique. I will say the technique, it can splatter for like 3-4 feet away. Like you'd be surprised how far it really splatters. So you might want to protect your floors and stuff too if you've got like floor under the table that you don't want splattered. Everything splattered all over. Otherwise you can just do this outside. Like sometimes that's when it's really nice in the summer. We don't always get a lot of nice days here in the northern Midwest, but you know, sometimes on the really nice summer days I like to go outside and do my watercolor splatters because then it just gets in the grass and who cares about the grass. So anyway, to get started now, y'all, I'm so excited for this. So you can use any type of paintbrush, doesn't really matter. Really doesn't matter. I'm just going to use a small round head brush. The bigger the brush though, the more, the greater the splatter is going to be. So if you don't want like crazy out of control splatters, go for a smaller brush. If you wouldn't mind trying some bigger, like crazy splatters, go for a larger brush, okay? So to get started, we're going to get the brush really nice and wet. I'm doing this over here in my water cup, off to the side. And then I'm actually going to move this over. You're probably like, the suspense is killing us here. Let's get going. Alright, so now with your brush, kind of like, you don't even need to wipe it off. You want it pretty wet and drippy because we're working with watercolor here. You're going to dip, it doesn't matter, whatever color you want to do first. Just gonna pick here. I might just go in order here. Get it nice and saturated with color. And we're gonna hold it over here, just anywhere in the picture, doesn't matter. You're going to hold it very gently on the end in one hand, take 2 fingers in the other hand, you're gonna whack it. Whack whack. Not quack quack, but whack whack. And you can do this all over the page. You can dip back for more. The less paint that you have on the brush, the smaller the dots and the lighter the dots are going to be. But you can do this all over the page. And this is like one of my favorite painting techniques, honestly. And we do want it to be like all over. We want it inside of the circles too, so just make sure you get it pretty well everywhere. You can do a couple of times in one color, and then make sure you clean off your brush really well in the water in between each color. So now I'm cleaning my brush off, and with it still really wet, I'm going to dip it right into my blue here. I'm going to do some blue splatters next. And it's going to be starting to create some Disney magic. Just try to kind of splatter everywhere where there's some white spots. We want everything covered in our splatters, right? And then clean my brush again and move on to the next color. Now, the further you get and the more colors you start to layer on top of each other, be aware that they might start to blend together on the page. Which is fine because we're doing a lot of different colors today, so it's inevitable that they're going to... Oh, that is actually a really nice green. I thought that was going to be more of a sea green, a blue green, but that is a really nice green. Anyway, they are probably going to fade together on the page, like some of the watercolor will bring itself together. And it will probably blend together on the page, so just be aware of that and don't get frustrated if that does happen. That's just part of the process, you guys. Now it's turning more like sea green. That's interesting. My blue paint must have settled at the bottom. And so it's giving me like lighter green on top of my palette here and then darker green underneath. That's interesting. Anyway. Clean that off again. I'm going to keep moving on, and I'm going to do my purple. At least this should be purple. We'll see. More of a dark blue, but you might also want to make sure this doesn't get on your clothes. I should have said that too, because as I said, it will splatter like everywhere. So just be very aware of that. Also, the closer, play around with how close and how far away from the paper you hold your brush. Because the closer you hold it, the bigger the splatters are going to be, and the more condensed in one area they're going to be. The farther away you hold it, the more sporadic and smaller they're going to be. Now, I'm doing this on watercolor paper, and even though this is watercolor paper, it wants to curl on me a little bit. So, I mean, you can hold it down with, like, weights or something if you need to. Pretty much any paper you're going to use for this, even if it is watercolor paper like what I'm using, it's going to want to curl on you the more wet it gets, which is fine. And if you need to pause and, like, let the watercolor dry... There's a nice splatter, hello. If you need to pause and let it dry for a minute so that it kind of stops curling on you, because the more it curls, the more the paint is going to want to run down the page, which is that if that's the kind of effect you want, you can do that. You can like hold it up and let it start to drip down. But if that's not the kind of effect you want, make sure you hold it as flat as you can and let it dry. Now, I'm going to continue on with my next color here. This nice orange, kind of peachy orange. I do like this color. So I'm going to get some big splatters of it in here. Here we go. Just like all over. Just go for it, you guys. Have fun with it and just go for it. Honestly, you're probably so far gone at this point with your splatters, you don't even, probably not even paying attention to me anymore, but just go for it and have fun. Have as many splatters as you want. Have a splatter party, you guys. Invite someone over, invite over a friend. Have a splatter party. It is actually a really good idea. If you guys really do enjoy this class, you can always, you guys, you can always take my classes again and again. Especially this one or the ones you think are the most fun. Take it again and invite someone over and, like, invite someone else to join you. Like, share the fun with everyone else. Don't be greedy. Don't keep all the fun for yourself. My yellow's not going to show up as much because it's a very, very light color and it might blend in very easily with the other colors, but I'm still going to try to bring it in a little bit here. Yes. And then, of course, as you move along, keep moving along, You can go back in with some other colors again. Like my very first color, my pinkish red, is kind of faded into the background now, and I want to bring some more of that in. Especially some large splatters really close to the page. How about in the ears here? Yes. But just as much as you need. Go for as long as you want until you feel satisfied with your splatter effects. There's a lot of splattering today, you guys, so have fun. I know I keep saying that, but I mean it, have fun. It's also very much like testing your ways to think creatively, because you kind of have to look at your page and see where you want more splatters, and you know, you're deciding where the splatters go and how much of them. So you're testing your own creativity. You really are. Another thing you can try, and I'm just going to try this myself, like directly on the page, because my purple turned out really bluish. I'm going to touch it to some of these pink areas and kind of play around with the watercolor directly on the page. Because I know that these colors mixed together, blue and pink or red, is going to create a purple. So I'm just kind of bringing it, just touching it. This is called a wet on wet effect in watercolor technique. I'm just touching it to that and creating like another color, and I'm kind of spreading it out manually with the brush. Spreading it out so we get an even bigger little splatter here. And then just like that, like, glorious. Look at that, you guys. Awesome, awesome work. Now from here, we are going to have to pause for a little bit to let our paint, we gotta let it dry before we do any outlining. If you don't feel like doing outlining today and you're fine with the way your pencil, just fine with the pencil lines being the outline of your mouse here, you can just pause or just stop here and just call it a day. But if you want to do the outlining with me, which I think is going to make it look really nice and pop out, and it's not going to take us that long, just a few minutes, you can go on ahead and just let this dry for a few minutes, which I think is what I'm going to do. And while it's drying, I think I might clean out some of my watercolors and just get myself all cleaned up here. But go on ahead and take a couple of minutes to either finish out your splattering or let your watercolor dry, usually 5 to 10 minutes, no more. I mean 10 minutes, it'll definitely be dry in 10 minutes. But go on ahead and let everything dry first so that then we can come back and do some outlining. So now, hopefully at this point, you've paused. If you haven't paused yet, wait for your watercolor to dry. You can do that now. Please do, at least underneath the lines that we're going to outline and paint. I would really, really recommend you wait until the paint in those areas is really dry. Mine, I still have a couple of wet spots, but I think it's going to be okay, because for the most part, where the lines are is dry. Because we're going to outline, we're going to go over our sketch lines with a little bit of a paint outline with just regular acrylic paint, and if it touches that wet watercolor, it'll spread into the wet watercolor, which is not ideal, but hey, if it happens, it happens. So from here, I'm going to go on ahead, and for this, you have a couple of options for this. This is the class of many, many options, I'm telling you. Many options. For this, I'm actually going to, I did some painting earlier, so I've got some extra dark paint here, some raw umber that I'm going to use just to do this. With my leftover paint from a painting I did earlier, so that I can use up all my paint and not waste paint. But any type of black will work for this. You can actually do this in any color you want. It doesn't have to be a dark color. And just, that's what I'm going to be doing, so that it's, you know, the mouse ears are, no, that's still a little bit wet there, that's okay. If it is a little bit wet, you can kind of pat it out with your finger a little bit, just in these circular areas. I'm going to be doing a dark color. This is really, really dark. raw umber, which is almost like a black color, to do the outlining with. Or you can use black acrylic paint, or you can also, if you don't even feel like using paint, you can use like a marker or a thick like black pen or something to outline all of your circles with. But if you're up for the challenge, it is a little bit more challenging to use the paint, so I recommend you try using the paint if you can. I'm going to get my brush a little bit wet again because it might be dry now. Just like my dry watercolor, right? And I'm going to use my paintbrush and this leftover raw umber I've got here. I'm going to mix it up a little bit so that it's from earlier today, so it's a little bit dry, but I'm just going to get to the bottom of it where it's a little bit more wet. And this is really important, you guys. Don't glob up the paint on the end of your paintbrush. Kind of keep it just not very much on the end of your paintbrush. I mean, you want enough on there that it makes a line, but you don't want so much that it's going to make a glob, right? So you're going to have to dip into your paint a couple of times, but all we're going to do, very, very simple, so don't overthink. We're just going to trace over all of these circles that we made before. Very, very simple. So again, don't overthink, but it can be tricky because outlining with a paintbrush, making thin lines with a paintbrush, or at least trying to make them as thin as we can. It's okay if they're a little bit thicker. It can be difficult. It really can. You have to learn how to control your brush, and that is why I'm here to help you, walk you through this, but also so that you get a chance to practice this. This is why I recommend at least trying. And don't worry, you're not going to mess up your beautiful painting, okay? We're just trying and just practicing, creating these lines. Well, they're not so much of lines as they're circles, but they're curves, right? Curves of the circle. So just kind of drag the brush. Here are some tips just to help you get this going. Just kind of drag the brush little sections at a time, like wisping it across with your brush very gently. Just the tip of the brush. Don't push the brush too hard. Just gently drag that tip of the brush across there. See how that made? Just like that. Really nice. Thin enough of lines, right? It doesn't have to be like so thin that you can't see it. And then again, these two circles, you can go in whatever order you want. Just drag the brush very gently, and where they connect, you can just kind of go over it. And just dragging it gently, gently, section by section, piece by piece, dragging it all the way around these circles. And just make sure you take your time to focus. Take as much time as you need. And like I said, you don't want to glob up the paint on the end of your brush. You just want a little bit. And then as you're painting, you can kind of rotate the brush. See how I rotate it every few strokes? I come back and then I rotate a little bit more until it's pretty much dried up on the very end. And then you're going to have to dip back for more. It's not like a marker where it just keeps coming out, right? We have to dip back for more when we're using a paintbrush. We're going to go all along the edges of these circles, just like this. At least we're trying, right? You're doing great, you guys. Doing awesome, awesome, awesome. Almost there. See how simple and easy this can be? Just relax into it. Just let the paint kind of flow off the end of the brush. And you're golden. You are doing great. You're doing magical. How about that, magical? And finishing up the round on this one. Again, you can pause the video if you need more time. Always take as much time as you need. So we're just simply going over all of these lines. So that our mouse ears, the classic iconic mouse ear look, kind of pops more, right? Just kind of pops more. And again, you don't have to do that in black or a dark gray like what I did. You can use whatever color you want. Maybe you want to make it pink, right? Pink circles. Maybe when you come back and take this class again, like I said, I highly recommend taking it more than once. Then you can come back and you can do things in different colors next time. And just experiment, play around, right? You can always play around with different things. And now I'm going to clean my brush off. And like I said before, if you have enjoyed doing this quick and easy painting with me, this quick and easy watercolor, beautiful, beautiful painting, then I very, very much recommend, if you haven't already, check out the full Disney-inspired painting course on Canvas Academy, my online painting platform called Canvas Academy. Canvas Academy, I'm the teacher of everything on Canvas Academy, but I like to think of it as a place for us, like as artists, as a community, to come together and learn together different painting techniques, of course, different pictures, how to make different things, like landscapes, portraits, flowers, fruits, all the things. Of course, we go over everything step by step in every single class that I teach on Canvas Academy. Everything is beginner friendly, step by step. I'm never going to leave you behind and leave you tell you okay, do this, and then I'm going to move ahead of you. No. We take everything absolutely step by step, just like what we did in this class. And specifically for the Disney inspired course, we do a lot of Disney inspired, right? Inspired by our favorite childhood, classic, iconic films. So just like this Mickey Mouse inspired portrait, we also do a lot of different Disney princesses, because my personal favorite has always been Disney princesses. So again, I highly, highly recommend you check out Canvas Academy, specifically the Disney inspired course, which of course I'll link below the video. If you haven't already checked it out, to please go and check that out, because I know you're going to absolutely love it. And I hope you enjoyed this class so much. Take it as many times as you'd like. And I will see you all later, my fellow painters.